What's going on, YouTube Metal Complex here, and today I'm really excited to do this video. I want to do a compare and contrast of the Hinderer knives full track and the new XM24. Multiple reasons. First reason, I don't think there's a lot of people on YouTube running around with the full track and the XM24 in the new tri-way pivot system setup. You can see here this is one of the newer ones that has the bearings in it and running with CPM 20 CV steel. Of course, the full track also has the tri-way pivot system. You can see there on the flipper tab, and is also CPM 20 CV steel. On top of that, they're both $600, and they're two of Hinderer Knives' largest models. And I think they're getting a lot of attention right now, a lot of attention, especially the full track. So I thought, surely there's some people out there wanting to see what the big differences are between these two knives. And really, I think this video is really going to benefit people who have owned a Hinderer XM18 and love it, but just either for purposes of expanding their collection or just because they really want a bigger knife and they want to shop Hinderer. They want to know, like, do I go XM24 or do I go with the full track? I'm going to try and help you make a decision. This is not a battle. For those of you familiar with my channel, this is not a battle. I'm not going to bring out that... I love that. So many comments on this. I'm not going to bring out my chart that was meticulously written out and all neat and pretty. I'm not going to bring that out and do that. We're just going to talk about differences here and why you might choose one over the other. By the way, if you're not familiar with my channel, I'm a pretty laid-back guy. I like to do overviews and reviews of popular, expensive or inexpensive knives. I like to look at new models. I like to look at old models. And I talk for quite a while. My videos tend to be 20 minutes long, but I am truly passionate about knives, and I absolutely upload consistently 4 to 5 times a week at least. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, then join us. Subscribe to my channel. I think you'll really enjoy my content. Anyways, let's move on here. Let's take some measurements real quick. First up, the Hinderer full track. Brand new model from Rick Hinderer Knives. This platform was designed as of course, a knife that you can use the tool. By now, I think everybody knows the tool for disassembly of the knife, the entire knife, everything but the lock bar insert screw, which you really shouldn't be messing with, is attached to the standoffs there, so that's pretty cool. Of course, underneath the scale is a pocket. You can keep all of the interchangeable pivot hardware. Really awesome platform. And of course, action on it is great. Materials are awesome, titanium, blah, blah. We'll go over that. Let's do some measurements here. Overall length of the Hinderer full track is going to be about 8 3/4. How about the blade? Blade length on this guy coming in at 3.75 inches. I believe that is the actual, the official measurement there. Cutting edge, just shy of 3.5 inches. Looks to be about a 3.4 inch cutting edge. By the way, both of these knives are owned by David. I am still going to try and pry the XM24 out of his hands. But both of these are owned by David. So David, thank you so much for making this possible. See, David just made the easy choice. He didn't pick one or the other. He just bought both. So for those of you who are also able to do that, I'll make this easy for you. Buy both of them. I know it's I can't do that, but I know there are other people out there who can. And I'm a huge Hinderer fan, so that's mostly a joke. But if you're able to buy both, they're that good. Buy both. Anyways, let's do some measurements on the XM24. The XM24 is a bigger knife overall. Overall length on this guy is gonna be, I know officially it says like 9.12 or something like that, but it honestly looks like 9 1/4. Truthfully, it looks like it's 9 1/4 overall from where I'm standing. Blade length on this guy, overall blade length coming in at, seriously, it's like right at 4 inches. And cutting edge on this guy, just a little over 3.5 inches. It's about 3.6 inches of cutting edge. Now, here's another thing to consider, the overall thickness between these two. You can see the XM24 is quite a bit more stout than the full track. And I've seen that question a lot. I think a lot of people assumed the full track was as thick as the XM24, but truthfully, the full track has about the same thickness as the XM18. You can see there XM18 titanium and blade thickness are about the same, though of course the full track here is quite a bit larger than the XM18. So you can see there. This is a cool shot. I'm really proud as a Hinderer fan and owner of multiple Hinderers. I'm really proud to have this these three all side by side. Anyways, how about weight? Let's weigh these guys, because I know that's going to be important to a lot of people. Let's bring in the old Metal Complex official channel scale here and turn it on. If we can. Can we get it on? Oh, I was pushing unit. Sorry about that. Okay, first up, full track. We'll weigh each twice to make sure the accuracy of my scale is on point. 6.84 ounces. This is a very heavy knife. Other side, 6.88 ounces. So there you go. 6.85, call it. How about the XM24? XM24 being longer and thicker, 7.65 ounces. Try it again on the other side. 7.65 ounces. So you're looking at close to an additional ounce on the XM24. That makes sense because the XM24 is a bigger and thicker knife and just, really heavy all the way around. Now, other differences here. The XM24 has the old style, for Hinderer, where they do a small liner underneath, a full-side titanium on this side, and a pretty thick G10 scale, whereas the full track does, it's really titanium on both sides with an inlay of G10. So you do get titanium on both sides, and you have a sort of some weight reduction there with the inlays. Now, the flipper tabs are also quite a bit different. Let's actually close them to demonstrate this. So the XM24 has the typical Hinderer flipper tab, which is more so designed as a guard for your finger in the cutting position. It keeps your finger completely out of the way. You can see it's rounded there to match the shape of the primary choil. Whereas the flipper tab and also, you can see here, we also have that issue where you're coming down a little bit on the jimping, though it's not quite as bad as on the XM18. You can see there the positioning of the flipper tab. You have less jimping on the XM24 that you can run into. So it's not quite as bad. You hit that last jimp, I guess is what we'll call it, on the XM24, but it's not as bad as the XM18 and definitely more comfortable. This up here, though, it's designed more as a push-button flipper than a light switch, though because of this new tri-way pivot system, you absolutely can light switch it, no problem. Now, the flipper tab on the full track is, I would say it might actually be a little bit bigger. It's definitely designed in a way that's more comfortable. It feels more natural, more organic to flip this knife. Your landing zone is extremely comfortable here because you land in this little slot where it starts to ramp backwards towards the rest of the handle. That does feel more organic, both in light switch and in push button. Though you to me, it's almost a hybrid of light switch and push button on this, and they really nailed it. So I really like that. So I suppose if I was scoring them, I would give flipper tab to the full track. Let's talk about overall handle shape and ergonomics on these guys. So the full track, you've got this position here that houses really your first two fingers. And then back here on the handle, you've got plenty of room to get the rest of your hand around. You've got a nice area right here where you can rest your thumb. Really, though, it's more comfortable up here on the jimping. And you can see the jimping that's up here at the top, how that's shaped. Does provide nice traction. Ergonomics are absolutely great. No problem there. You have a forward choil. Plenty of room for your finger, very comfortable. You've got space, so you're not really running the risk too much of running your finger up on the blade. Very, very comfortable. For those of you who feel the need to carry your knives like this, if you're wondering, yes, it's also very comfortable. So no issues there. It's also very easy to get your thumb in here to disengage. You can see that cutout right there. Very, very easy to disengage the knife and, of course, deploy it. The XM24 has an even larger handle. It's also very comfortable. You have lots of jimping up here back on the, well, I guess it would be the spine. Back on the scales, you've got jimping up on the blade. You've also got jimping back here, and you've got jimping right here. It's definitely going to lock in. In fact, you could almost get 4 fingers around the back end of the knife behind the the primary choil. This is one of the biggest forward choils I have ever seen. You absolutely do not run the risk of running you'd have to really try to run your finger up on that blade, honestly. You'd have to really, really try. So as far as ergonomics on this knife, they're great. They're a little bit more aggressive than the full track, but still 100% comfortable. In fact, me personally, this is just me, I like the fullness of the XM24 in my hands. I really, really like the full track. Did I say XM24 when I was talking about how much I liked it? I love this. I love the fullness of this. I love the full track itself. I love the ergonomics. You know, they feel good. But I just, like, when I hold an XM24, even though it's kind of, both of these knives are completely ridiculous in terms of size. I'm not saying they're not functional. I'm saying they're just massive, huge knives. But this thing just feels like a beast in a good way in hand. It's really hard to demonstrate exactly how massive this knife is, but it feels good. Like it's big, but it's big in a good way. So I actually prefer the ergonomics of the XM24, but there are lots of people who will not share that with me. I would say if you're going for absolute overall comfort, I'd probably give it to the full track. If you're going for that, you know, testosterone boosting feeling of solidity and dependability, it's hard to beat the XM24, period. I haven't handled it really any other knife ever that has made me feel like more capable than the XM24. You pick one of those up and you're gonna go, oh, okay, I'm ready to go. I don't really care what it is we're doing, but I am ready to go. That's honestly the feeling I get with the XM24. So let's move on to materials, and this is going to be easy because the materials are exactly the same. The blades are made out of CPM 20 CV. Your scales are G10 and titanium, though they're just placement is a little bit different. And they both have the bearing pivot system, or the tri-way pivot system, which is interchangeable. Now, blade shapes, though, let's move on to blade shapes. Those are different. These are both drop point variants. This is a Spanto blade shape, which you can see there the flat carries way out here, it's like 85% the length of the blade, resulting in a ridiculously robust tip. Yeah, I mean, there is no way you're breaking that tip. That thing is insane. There's no way you're breaking the tip on an XM18. That thing's insane, but this is just this is on steroids. You know, there's no way you're gonna break the tip on the 24 unless you were doing something ridiculous. You know, you would need industrial equipment to really force the blade to break on this thing. I don't actually know how much force it would take. I'm trying to say that it would take a lot of force. You have the way that it's ground down here, you can see there how it keeps that rigidity, that line there dividing the compound grind, essentially dividing the flat grind up front and the grind back here. Surprisingly, though, it is very slicey. If you want to see that demonstrated, you can actually go back and watch my overview/review of the XM24, and I cut paper with it. This is a .187 stock thick blade. Compared to the XM18's .165 stock thick blade, you can see there it absolutely is substantially thicker. So very thick, absolutely geared towards strength and durability, though surprisingly it does slice paper pretty well, and that's definitely owed to the way that Rick and crew sharpen their knives. Oh my gosh, if you have not bought a Hinderer knife recently, they have just perfected the way that they sharpen their knives. I am so impressed with how easily these knives glide through material. As thick as the XM24 is, it does not care. It goes right through the paper. I mean, you're not getting that sort of frayed paper edge where you can see the dust off the paper as you're cutting it. No, it goes right through it. Really, really impressive. Though I do have to give sliciness or overall slicing factor to the full track. The way that the full track is ground, which is a more traditional drop point, a flat that does not carry quite as far, the upper swedge, and the thickness of the blade being only 0.165, the end result or the end cutting edge is just, it's better for slicing. Is it still durable? Absolutely. We are talking about two knives between 8 3/4 inches and 9 1/4 inches, blade stock thicknesses of 0.165 and 0.187, designed and created by a person who is, he was a firefighter and really, really interested in designing a cutting tool that he could depend on in extreme situations. Are these knives durable? Oh, yeah, yes. So it's like, do you want the one that, like, you know, is like overkill for strength, or the one that's like got a lot of strength and is a little bit better at slicing? And truthfully, they're both overkill for strength. One is just slightly better at slicing. That's really where we're at here between the two knives. I also want to point out, since we're on the blades, one technically has two deployment methods. I've not actually tried to deploy the 24 with the thumb studs yet. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, you can absolutely do it. No problem. I don't know about the reverse flick. Ricky, I'm going to let you, the next time I am able to let you handle that one, I will let you try and reverse flick that XM24, but I'm not interested in damaging my finger, so I'm going to let you do that if you want to. Now, on the full track, you have, of course, the flipper, and then you don't really have a thumb. Somebody might be able to dig in hard enough and make that work, but it's not really designed that way. It's a fuller or blood groove, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's just a means of deploying the knife with two hands in a way that's not aggressive. This knife is an alarming knife, as is the 24. If somebody needs their bag of pretzels open, you whip this out of your pocket and, you know, like that's crazy. You know, there's a lot of situations where you may not want to do that. You might just, if this is the only thing you have, you might just want to, you know, open it up slowly so as not to clear the room in panic. But I'm joking there, obviously, but seriously, that's why that is. So this has like 1.5 means of deployment. The XM24 has 2 means of deployment. Let's go on to the biggest thing, probably the thing that most of you guys are waiting to hear me talk about, the obvious difference between these two, and that is the built-in tool that's on the full track, the one that makes it, you know, it makes this knife able to be disassembled completely in the field and then reassembled. And that tool is, of course, the tool I showed at the beginning of the video, this tool back here, which is attached and actually acts as the backspacer. You simply lift, and this spring here, once it is, you know, when it's pushed down, it allows that hook to catch the standoff that is above it and snap back into place. Very just ingenious. But it absolutely is solid. It's not something that's going to, like, you're not going to be able to shake that tool out of there if you're running around with this in your pants, or if you drop it, it's very unlikely it's going to pop out. You have to intentionally pull this thing out of there to get that to come out. You can see how it looks without the tool. The tool itself allows you to remove the pivot. It allows you to remove both of the body screws on either side. It also, the tiny head on the top, allows you to get in and remove the screws holding in each of the screws holding in the inlay. The only thing the tool will not do, and I'll demonstrate here. See, it doesn't unscrew that. It will not allow you to take the screw out that holds the lock bar insert in, which, as Nick Shabazz and everybody else who's ever talked about this says, you don't need to mess with that. Just with, you know, you can leave that alone. It really doesn't matter. So this is a major advantage that the full track has over the XM24. The XM24 is easy to disassemble, but you will need a tool that's not a part of the knife. So, you know, a lot of people are going to be carrying these knives, though, let's be honest, a lot of people who are going to be carrying this knives are probably going to be fairly tool savvy, or be carrying other tools, or have access to things that they could use to disassemble or at least adjust their knives. This requires the hex head part of the tool on the backspacer, or a common hex head tool that you can find like anywhere. If you, for whatever reason, lose that tool or you don't have access to it for whatever reason, you leave it at home because you like how the barrel spacers look. This can be adjusted with a penny, a flat head. The other side can be held in place by a spanner bit, which costs about $1.50 online. Or if you want to cut a notch in a penny, you can do that. Now, if you do want to disassemble the knife, you will need the hex head bits to that are going to be used to remove those body screws. And then you have the Chicago screws on the other side and the standoffs. But that's your difference there. So the advantage with the full track is that you are always carrying around the tool that you would need to either adjust or disassemble the knife. And also, you can keep the hardware for the tri-way pivot system inside the scale, which is nice. I don't think there are a lot of people in this world who daily come get themselves in a situation where they would actually need to swap out the bearings to phosphor bronze and then back to bearings daily or weekly. That's a pretty rare circumstance. Obviously, in dusty, dirty, gritty situations, phosphor bronze washers are going to be a better choice. If you prefer the action of the bearings after you've gotten done, beating the crap out of your full track and you want to sit around and flip it on your couch at the end of the day, well, you've got the tool connected to the full track that would allow you to change those out. If you are that type of person, I'm going to tell you right now, the knife is for you is the full track. If you're going to be changing stuff that often, the full track is the way to go. Most of us are just going to decide, I like the bearings or I like most of us are not going to choose the nylon washers. Some people will, but the other 99.7% of us are either going to choose the bearings that they come pre-installed with. Both of these knives come pre-installed with bearings, or we're going to choose the phosphor bronze, and then we're going to leave it that way for eternity, unless we want to mess around and kind of figure out how each of them feel. So the tool really, for the most part, is going to be used to make minor adjustments as you continue to use the knife, which is absolutely a benefit. The front pivot comes loose, which would only be the case, only the front side, because the back side, you can see there is not going anyway the way that is set up. Or one of your handle screws comes loose, well, you can just go ahead and get it fixed right there. Pull the tool out, tighten it down, and you're good to go. Maybe you need to adjust it. Maybe the action feels a little bit stiff and you'd like it a little bit smoother. Well, then loosen it up a little bit. That's great. Now, you can do the same thing with the pivot on the XM24 with any penny that's lying around. But if for whatever reason one of your handle screws comes loose, you are going to have to stop. And that has happened to me. I have had XM18 users, and after months and months and months, I have had a handle screw come loose and had to be like, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to go get it tightened down before I keep using it. In that situation, you are at a direct advantage with the tool on the full track. By the way, if at any time in this video I accidentally said half track, I'm sorry. I used to have a half track. I don't have it anymore. But between the half track and full track, it's easy to get those mixed up. So full track. Anyways, moving on here. Other things to consider, or other things to point out anyway. The pocket clips are modular. On the XM24, they are tip up and tip down, right-hand carry only, though. On the full track, you only have one carry position, and that's right-hand tip up. So that is going to bum out a few people. These are right-handed knives for now. Depending on when you're watching this video, maybe Rick will make a left-handed, frame lock. Maybe that'll be the case. I don't know. They're modular. You can switch those out. The XM24 absolutely 100% at the time of this video has more modular parts made available by Rick Hinderer. So if you're into the customization, right now the XM24 is easier to customize. They both have steel lock bar inserts that also double as over travel stops, though the Hinderer XM24 has the lock bar stabilizer, the famous Rick Hinderer lock bar stabilizer, that disc there, while the full track does not have it. It's actually the overlay is acting as that stop, and also, of course, the lock bar insert. So technically, both of them have two over travel stops. It's just one is more modular. If you're a fan of the LBS and you like to have that customized, maybe you want a blue one or a purple one or a green one. Maybe you like that 45 caps that Steel Flame does. Maybe you like Steel Flame filler tabs. That's another thing to point out. The full track does not have the filler tab. So if you're like me and you like those steel flame filler tabs and pocket clips, and well, the pocket clip you can do, but if you like the steel flame LBS and filler tab stuff and you're big into customization, the XM24 might be a better choice. Really, I think the decision between these two knives comes down to just a few really important factors. How important is it to you to be able to field adjust or disassemble your knife? If the answer is extremely important or very important, you are likely going to want to go with the full track. And this one comes in OD green, but there are a ton of colors out there right now, guys. I mean, you can get them in whatever flavor you want, and I think they even have working finish. And there's soon going to be lots of blade shapes for this thing, just like the XM24. I mean, that's not confirmed, but knowing Hinderer, I'm sure that'll be the case. So if that's a big deal to you, and the field adjustment thing, then this is going to be your guy. If you're more into, customization, you like the feeling of an extremely robust knife. Maybe you've been a Hinderer fan for a very long time and you've just never had the XM24. You're a fan of thicker blades, and to be honest, guys, I'm the type of person who has this ridiculous draw to a thicker blade and just a big burly knife for not really any reason, particularly in the realm of utility, but just because of the feeling that it gives me. I enjoy that. I like that this blade is so big and heavy that when it fires, there's recoil. Can you see that there? How my hand shakes? There is major recoil on that knife, and it's very satisfying. It exists on this knife too, just it's not in the same way. So if you like that and you're a big fan of that, maybe the XM24 is the knife for you. The fact remains that both of these knives are $600, and in my opinion, they are both well worth the asking price. I think at this time, more people are going to choose the full track simply because of what it is, the innovation that it represents, and it represents Hinderer knives moving forward. So I have a feeling more people will choose the full track. If you guys want to know which one I would pick for myself, I love both of them. I think they're both they're just excellent, and they both bring me so much joy. I would be happy with either one forever. But if it were me, I would choose the XM24. I'm such a huge fan of the XM18 profile and design. The XM24 is just an older, bigger, meaner brother to the XM18, and it's if for no other reason than just because it is an XM18 on steroids. Sorry about the long pause there. I had to cut the video and I kept missing the stop button. Anyways, though, like I said, they're both $600. They're both going to bring you a lot of joy. You can't choose wrong. And if you have the means, if you have the financial means to get both, get both. I know that's $1,200. So most of my viewers are going to be like, he's crazy. But, some people out there can do that. I can't afford to own both of these. I can only afford to own one at the moment. I'm going to try to get David to give up his XM24 because this red one is just, it's so cool, But there's a Hinderer flavor out there for everybody. Hinderer fans, I hope this video, helped out. I hope it helped you make a decision on this, And if not, I hope it was at least entertaining. For those of you who are not Hinderer fans, I hope you found some level of enjoyment with this video. For those of you who are Hinderer fans and have never owned a Hinderer knife, I hope this helped out a little bit. Though, as always, honestly, if you have never owned a Hinderer knife, I will recommend that you first go with one of their less expensive 3.5 models or 3-inch models, because $425, if it's not going to be the knife for you, it's a lot easier to choke down than $600. And for the most part, all of these Gen 6 models, they do pretty well in the secondary market. So if it's not your cup of tea, you can get most of your money back out of it, as long as you haven't, really beaten it into oblivion. So I want to look at these over one more time, just in case I've missed anything obvious. I'm an extreme Hinderer fan, as many Hinderer fans are, but when you're doing these videos, it is easy to overlook certain obvious things. So I do want to take a look here real quick. I guess we can talk about position of logos for anybody who's curious. The horsehead logo on both of these knives is about the same size, though the positioning on the XM24 is higher up, whereas this one, for obvious reasons, because of the position of the fuller, is down lower at about the middle of the blade. On the other side, they put the 20 CV down here, closer to the frame and towards the bottom of the blade. Kind of looks nice. I prefer the original place that they put this up here by the pivot and on the flat. Though again, it's not going to be possible on the half track because of that, or the full track because of that that fuller. So I kind of like how that looks. They also still put Hinderer up here on the top of the frame. They do not do that on the full track. It's just like this. Because the relief cutout is covered by the overlay, you don't get to see that nice milling that you see on the inside of XM18s and XM24. Those little diagonal lines there. I've always liked that. No Chicago screws to deal with on the full track. You can see that the screws actually just screw directly in to the standoffs. So that's where your threads are there. Whereas on the XM24, because you have Chicago screws, the screws screw into the Chicago screws and not the barrel spacers. Stop pins on these guys. That's actually a big important thing. The lugs, the bracing lugs on the XM24 stop this blade on the frame. And then the closed position stop pin is down here, which is different than the XM18, which is up here on the top. Now, on the full track, the stop pin is actually, so I can find it. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. The stop pin is actually internal, and it's more so towards the front. There's a groove cut out on the blade that allows for the stop pin, which I believe, if I remember correctly from my disassembly video, is actually fixed to one side of the knife. It's internal completely, so you don't see that. So if you're not a fan of seeing the stop pin, you don't have to worry about that on the full track because it's just completely hidden, inside of the knife near the pivot and on the blade, or at least it rides along the blade. So I don't know. That's a minor detail. To me, it doesn't really have any bearing on functionality. It's just more of a cosmetic thing and just it's a design difference. One design is not better than the other in that in terms of the stop pin. It's just it's just going to be a preference. But anyways, truthfully, guys, I think that's it. I think that's everything that I can possibly talk about between these two knives. So again, I hope I helped some of you make a decision, and at the very least, I hope I entertained you guys. That's really the goal of this, is just to take situations like this, obvious situations where I've got knives that are not likely to be owned by one person, and compare and contrast. So this was really fun. I really enjoyed doing this. I was really excited to talk about these two. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.